All right, so more tales of the paranormal. Unless someone can think of a better name for this, because I'm all up for that. So anyways, we've had a lot of responses to all the paranormal stuff. I've gotten about 75 altogether, and we're going to be sifting through those. So I'm going to be in contact with people, lots of stuff coming there. But the point of this, while we're waiting for that, is I wanted to share another story that I had about the paranormal. This time it was from an old funeral home. Okay, so I would have been about in my mid-20s, and a friend of mine got an apartment in a converted funeral home into an apartment building, right? What could go wrong? I know you're thinking. So he lives in the basement of this apartment building. Now, I'm not going to mention where it is because the apartment building is still there, although it's not an apartment building anymore. And the funeral home is still there. It's next door, actually. So I'm not going to say where. If you're from PA, you probably got a good idea what I'm talking about anyways. But anyways, so this apartment building, he lived there. And of course, they got a room in the basement. He had a roommate. And it was an odd couple type situation. But his bedroom ended up being what would have been the old embalming room, where they would put all the cadavers and they would get everyone prepped for the funerals. So his bedroom was never warm. Never. He had a heater in there, was never warm. Electricity never worked very well either. His lights would always flicker on and off. And my friend was it's weird because he was a bit of a scaredy cat. He didn't really like that kind of stuff. And he didn't realize what it was until after he moved in. And by the time he moved in, right, or in early 20s, you don't have a lot of cash. So he couldn't exactly move out and go anywhere else. So he was stuck here living with this guy. It's a firm building. He would come home from work and all his stuff would be moved around. And at first he thought it was his roommate doing it. So they would cause a lot of strife and fights and they would go back and forth. But then his roommate was out of town. He went to work. He come back and everything in his room had been moved to different locations. And it scared the hell out of him, like really bad. Where I remember him calling me up and saying, I got to get the fuck out of here, right? He was just that kind of panicky. His lights would flicker, all that kind of stuff. But when his roommate was there was nothing. None of that stuff happened. So then he's like, am I just going crazy here or what? So I went over with him. I've only been in that place about 3 times because it creeped me out. It was so damn cold when he walked in there. It was like going into a freezer, his bedroom. He's like, oh, I like it cold. That was like one of the selling points when he moved in. Little did he know that it was probably some malevolent spirit hanging around or whatever the case may be. But anyways, he finally had enough when he came home and all the stuff had been moved in his room. His light would not stop flickering. And then he started to hear a voice that said, get out. And he like lost his shit and that was it. That was it. It was done. It was over. An old funeral home converted into an apartment building scared the shit out of him. And he talked about that for quite a while. But it was just interesting what can happen in small towns. And especially if you're a believer, that kind of stuff, right? Things can linger, things can attach, right? Like objects, right? Places, that sort of stuff. But yeah, I wanted to share that story with you because that was a different friend than my other story. So I think that anything that has some history to it, you don't really know what's going on. Especially something like that where it's, the physical body of the deceased, all those sorts of things. Energy if we're all energy, everything's attached, you can see how that might occur, right? A real Shining kind of vibe to it, if you've ever seen that movie. But anyways, I just want to share that with you today. And if you're wondering where my rooster is, he's on assignment. But yeah, so if you have more stories, keep them coming. I'm going to be contacting people. We're going to get some stories set up. I got some interviews lined up already. We're going to really get into the PA paranormal history part. So if you have anything or you know anyone and you want to be a part of this, send me a message, let me know. And if I learn anything from Ghostbusters, it's everything will be okay as long as we don't cross the streams. All right, well, we'll see you on the other side, everyone. Take care and have a great rest of your day.